A new year, a new SEC schedule, possibly the toughest ever for the Hogs, and something new, a Hog Central Basketball Podcast.
This is the Hog Central Podcast. And now, here's your host, Steve Sullivan.
And welcome to our Hog Central Basketball Podcast. Our first one, I've got to my left, the walk-on wonder from Wabaseka, probably the best walk-on to ever play at the University of Arkansas, Ernie Murry. And on Zoom, coming from a meeting in Springdale, his driver is taking him now back to his home, is the ultimate Razorback authority, Coach Z. How you doing, guys?
Coach Z, I'm going to go first. I'm excellent. I'm doing really good. To see Coach Z, one of my favorite. He was on the staff when I played, and I listened to him talk about the Razorbacks every week. He does a fantastic job.
Well, I appreciate that, Ernie, and I always like picking your brain about the Razorbacks and getting your thoughts and opinion, and it's always been interesting, you know, and year after year, Sully, it's always interesting. Every Razorback basketball team's got something interesting going on, whether it's good, hopefully it's great, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's indifferent, sometimes it's bad, and sometimes it's real bad.
All right, where do you rank? Where do you guys rank the Calipari hiring compared to, say, the Belichick hiring for North Carolina? On the same level as far as a splash it made in the pond of college sports?
I think it's a great hire. We got another Hall of Fame coach, and I think the fans, and I was excited, you know, for Coach Calipari, guy that's won the national championship, and the type of players that he's going to bring here. You know, it makes any former player and any Arkansan happy, and I'm just happy to see that, you know, we're playing on, I call it the big stage again. We're playing next year on Thanksgiving, which is really big, and I think just hiring Coach Calipari puts us really, really back on the national stage.
Yeah, it's such a big hire. It has been ever since the Final Four weekend in 2024, and it's a bigger hire to me than Belichick. Belichick's won 7 Super Bowls, so I shouldn't say it's bigger, but Belichick hasn't won anything in college football. He's not won a game. And so Coach Calipari, I mean, I've won as many college football games as he has. And so Calipari has won a national championship. He's been to 4 Final Fours. He's got a lot of success in his pocket. He's won a lot of conference championships. We're trying to win a conference championship. He's got a lot of conference tournament championships. We're trying to win a conference tournament championship. He's won a national championship. We're trying to win a national championship. So he lines up very well for us, even though he's an East Coast guy, even though he's from Pittsburgh, even though he likes the East Coast so much, he lines up very good for what we're trying to do. He was in our conference. Bill Belichick, man, that's a grand slam for North Carolina. It brings them great. It really does. It brings them great recognition. Congratulations to North Carolina. But they're hiring a guy that coached a different game. He coached NFL football. And so I think the Coach Cal hire is a bigger deal.
People would say now that college football is about NFL football with the free agency. Hey, let's talk about the expectations, though. They are through the roof, and he comes in at a time when the SEC, I say, has never been better. I mean, it is unbelievable. Last night, Florida beats North Carolina at North Carolina. South Carolina knocks off Clemson. This isn't a one-day-a-week thing. This is an everyday thing that with the SEC. And you open up. I like the schedule and the fact that our two-game teams are Missouri, Texas, and LSU. Could be a lot worse. I don't like the fact that we open up on the road at Tennessee, and I think we play Ole Miss in Florida. That's 3 tough games, and I think you need to get off to a good start if you're Cal.
You know, Jim, I'm going to go first. The SEC is just tough from top to bottom. There's no cupcakes in the SEC. And when SEC play gets going, there are probably 7 teams in the SEC that's going to make the big dance this year. I don't know why we are so worried about, you know, the SEC. I think you do it like Nolan used to say, one game at a time. I think Tennessee is tough. I think Arkansas can cause people problems because of the guard play, the bigs. I like this basketball team. The only thing that worries me a little bit, I don't know if we have enough bodies. You know, you only got 9 scholarship players. And if somebody goes down, like when Thero goes out, we just got to get guys to pick up the pieces and move on. And Coach Cal and his staff have 9 good basketball players. Don't get me wrong, 9 good. But I'm going to say this on this podcast. If we get Boogie Fever, we can go a long ways.
Hey, Z, I thought
Boogie Fever.
Z, I thought numbers 10, 11, and 12 would be a little like Ernie. Could step in. I don't think we have any Ernie Murrays on that bench.
No.
Well, we got a great team. The top 9 are probably more talented than any team we've ever had. I mean, you got 9 guys who got a chance to play in the NBA. I don't know if all 9 will, but we've never had a Razorback basketball team that's had 7 NBA players, and much less 9. But you're right. Number 10 through 15, those are fine young men. A couple of them are pretty good. They're nowhere near Ernie Murray playing basketball at this point. They could use an Ernie Murray on that team. But you got so much talent. Boogie's one of the best point guards. He's probably top 2 or 3 or 4 point guard in the country, and there's some pretty good ones. DJ, when he's right, is a top 15 player in the country, top 15 guard in the country when he's right. There's times DJ's plays and he's not top 25 guard. But when he's bringing it and DJ Wagner's playing like he can, he's a top 15 guard in America. Same for Nelly Davis. So
hey,
that's
Z,
3 guys when they're all.
You mentioned something, Z, though, I thought in our special that was good. You can put up these numbers in non-conference, but it doesn't guarantee you that you're going to be as consistent and as productive once you get week to week in conference. Like Thero has put up huge numbers, 19 points a game, 8 rebounds. Boogie, there's a chance those numbers could level out a little.
Yeah, they could go down because you're playing against a lot better competition. No offense to our schedule. We've had a nice schedule. But when it comes down to it, Sully, you guys know, we're going to play 4 high majors, 4 SEC level games in the non-conference. We won 2 and we lost 2. Some teams in our league are playing 7 or 8 of those games. If it was up to me and I knew our league was going to be so great with all these odd one games, I would play nobody in the non-conference. But we have bought, at the end of the day, we've bought 9 games. So your numbers are going to be, obviously you're going to put up a lot better numbers in a bye game than you consistently over. Not that you can't beat somebody's butt in your league, because we'll blow some people out. But the league's going to be tough. And here's the deal. Ernie had said 7. There's people thinking there might be 10, 11, 12. Coach Calipari said the other day, we might have 13 teams make the NCAA tournament. I don't think we will, because I think we'll have 10 for sure, but maybe more. But when they start beating each other and adversity sets in, there's going to be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 teams in our league that are going to shut it down. They always have in our league. And that's no discredit to them. That's just a fact. And so hopefully there can start being some separation, and that Arkansas can be towards the top in the league and let some of these other teams fall off, and not be as hard to beat.
Wow. And you talk about I look at just Ken Palm. I look at a lot of those services, and Ken Palm kind of says where you are now and tries to predict where you're going to be at the end of the year. Let's hope this changes, but they have Arkansas finishing 8-10 in conference play. And that's just an indication of this league. Someone at the top of this league is going to be very disappointed at the end of conference play, because one of these teams, Florida, Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
There's going to be some teams that are going to be 3-5 that you didn't think would be 3-5. And someone's going to deal with some huge disappointment.
Well, we could come right out and be 0-3 in conference.
Yeah, that's right.
We could come right out of the gate and be 0-3 in conference.
We have 2 tough parts of the schedule in the beginning, and then in the middle there's a 3-game stretch that is brutal. But the one plus is in those 2 games that you play right now, LSU, Missouri, and Texas. If you're playing them in football, it might be tough, but basketball, those are probably the teams you want to play in the conference right now.
And what I say is you got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat.
You got to win at home, too.
You got to win at home.
The football team hasn't been able to win at home.
You got to win at home.
And that's something, Coach Z, come conference play, that place has got to be just brutal for opponents to come in.
Yeah, and it should be. I think we'll have a good crowd Saturday against A&T, but it's because we've been gone for 2 or 3 weeks. We're making these folks up here have to get a little bit hungry to see this team. November and December, they're seeing that we're playing all those bye games, and they're seeing us every 3 or 4. They're seeing us every 3 or 4 days, and we're not playing great opponents at home, and so now our fans up here, they're getting a little more hungry to see this team again. Number one. And number two, once we get in the league, we're playing Ole Miss and Mississippi State and really good teams, and the building will be full. It's hard to fill our building up 9 times in November and December, no offense, but when you're playing Lipscomb and you're playing A&T and you're playing Pacific and you're playing Troy and playing Little Rock, it's not going to be full. No. We've sold the tickets are sold. I mean, people are lined up to buy tickets. But unfortunately, on those game days, they hadn't been lined up to get in because they're ready to see us play Alabama, and they're ready to see us play Florida, and they're ready to see us play people in our conference.
How much of a plus is it, guys, that we've been in 2 really close games that have come down to the end, and in both games we functioned really well defensively? And I don't think that's something you could teach. It's instincts, and they've played really good defense at the end of games.
And what I like about this team is they found ways to win. I mean, we didn't look good in the Michigan game at first.
Yeah.
But at the end, we imposed our will on Michigan. And this team plays good defense, and they stay in front of their man. It's not a lot of gambling. They play good defense. They play together. This team can go a long ways because defense wins championships. And I like the way even the McDonald All-Americans play defense.
How about Boogie? Boogie had 3 steals in the first 4 minutes against, you'll say it's Central Arkansas, but 3 steals against the KATV All-Star team in the first 4 minutes. It's a big number, Z. And that gets in the head of the opposing point guard.
Absolutely. And you could see him against UCA as the first minute or two was going, he was guarding that guy so hard on the ball, and you're like, he's about to pick their pocket. Sure enough, boom, he picks their pocket because he's so instinctive. Ernie's right, great defense. You're going to win a lot of games. To me, this is a better defensive team than any of Coach Musselman's. Coach Musselman, to me, in 5 years had 3 really good defensive teams. One of them was really bad on defense last year. In the first year, we weren't great on defense. But the second, third, and fourth years, those were really good defenses that he had. And this team plays better defense seen in many years, because not only do you have these great guards that pressure the ball and can deflect it and steal it, but you have these shot blockers back there. And if put yourself in the offensive player's shoes, you're trying to go score, and you got Boogie and DJ and Nelly all over you.
Yeah.
And you finally get around one of those guys, or you make a cut to the basket around one of those guys. And then there's Jonas Adu at 66 blocks last year.
Yeah.
Rick Barnes said he changed over 200 shots last year.
Hey, you're talking about Jonas Adu. He looks better in these last games. How much of a coach? I like Coach Cal keeps saying he's not 100%.
He's not 100%.
He's looking better, but you can tell he's feeling more confident now that he's a presence down low, and I think he's kind of the X factor. And him with Brazil.
Man!
Hey, Cal's got Brazil playing well, which is a compliment to him.
Can we talk about Brazil a little bit? This is what I want to say. Every kid can't take a coach that's on them all the time. And I think Coach Cal gives Brazil that confidence that he needs.
Yeah.
He looks totally different this year. He looks to me like the kid when he first got here. He ain't dunking on people yet, but he is playing hard. He's playing as a team player. And Coach Calipari said it. He hadn't played his best game yet. I like this basketball team.
Hey, football fans, the college football playoffs are here, and the Triple Option Podcast is your go-to source. Be sure to join Urban Meyer, Mark Ingram II, and I each week as we march closer to Atlanta and crowning a new college football national champion.
Well, Z, it was Bruiser said one thing about Cal that he doesn't like as much is, and the reason he's coached so many great players, he gives them freedom on the court. Bruiser said he'd like to reel them in a little at practice, but coach lets them go. And a great example is DJ Wagner. I mean, he hadn't been really shooting really well from three, and he comes in that Michigan game and just starts pumping three after three and playing confident. But he seems to not affect the confidence of these players. He's always pumping them up.
Yeah, I think he's a very positive coach in that regard. I go by practice quite a bit. He coaches them positively in practice. There's not a lot of he doesn't beat them up a lot. Yeah, he'll get on them some. I mean, all coaches have to correct. He will do some corrections. He talks a lot in practice. He instructs a lot in practice. I knew in Kentucky he was known for having all these great scrimmages, and he's not been able to have those here. He has some. A lot of that's been because he hadn't felt like he's got the right people to scrimmage. He's got 15 on the team, but sometimes those other guys don't get into the scrimmages. And so
hey, you managed scrimmaging. Musk did not scrimmage. I don't know if Nolan did or what was his philosophy.
Yeah.
And were you with Mike Anderson? Did you guys scrimmage a lot? It seemed kind of odd that Musk.
Sully, Nolan Richardson scrimmaged every day.
Every day.
Wow.
And he might scrimmage on game day.
That's correct.
Sully, Mike Anderson scrimmaged every day, including sometimes on game day. Musk was a winning coach, had much success, did not scrimmage. I do think that hurt us at times. I always thought it hurt us in November and December. They practiced hard, some of the best drills you've ever seen, intense, didn't scrimmage. And so far, Cal has done more scrimmaging than Coach Musselman, but he's not been able to do a lot. And I know, I used to bring it up to my boss, Coach. We sometimes there was times he'd do 8-minute periods.
Wow.
And we might do 6 of them. Well, that's 8 minutes times 6. That's 48 minutes of real action.
Yeah.
A game's 40 minutes. We were scrimmaging longer.
Yeah.
Than you would in a game. And sometimes I thought that hurt us.
Yeah.
Because you can scrimmage too much.
Right. Matt, Coach said that, but remember Coach Richardson in January would scale the scrimmages back a little bit. We didn't go as long. Remember, we used to go 2 hours, 3 hours. January and February, we only practiced like an hour. He shortened it. Right. He shortened it. He shortened it up. Because you can wear kids out. You can wear them out.
Yeah. Z, how do you feel about this team as far as heading into conference play now? They've played their big games, and it's going to be a brutal conference. What do you think of this team as far as their strengths and what's their upside? Do you think heading into this conference play?
That's what's so nice about this team, as Ernie was kind of talking about. You got great potential. You got the ability to win a ton of games. You're super big.
Yeah.
You're long. They like to play defense. They have pride in their defense. And it's not one of these Calipari teams where he's laying on all these freshmen. We got 3 McDonald's All-American freshmen that are really good. But John L. Davis is like 23 years old.
Yeah.
Jonas Adu's like 22 years old.
You're making a great point. This is not a young team. Yeah.
Right. And, I think Coach Cal changed his coaching style up from the 11 to 12 freshmen to I'm going to take 3 freshmen and I'm going to get some grown men to go with those babies. And I think that has really helped with this basketball team.
Yes.
You got a guy that has played a ton of minutes. John L. Davis, who played at Florida, I think it's Florida Atlantic or Florida International. I'm getting confused. He's a great player. And if he ever gets going, he is a pure shooter. He's had nights, but he hadn't just really got going.
You notice how
yet.
They keep letting him shoot, though?
Yeah.
He must be hitting some in practice. Hey, something else, a stat that goes unnoticed with the team that this team does well. Now, they don't hit the offensive board, but they're 6th in the country in defensive rebounding. And, and that leads to, I guess the most important stat in basketball is in every game this season, they've gotten either even or more shots than their opponent.
Wow.
So that's something by not a great offensive rebounding team, but they're a good defensive rebounding team, and they get after they create turnovers.
And I thought in the Baylor game at the end, they didn't know how to win.
Yeah.
But I think in the Michigan game.
Yeah, and Miami too.
Yes, they knew how to win those games. Baylor, they didn't know how.
They played terrible against Miami and just managed to win that game. I kept thinking they'd be down more, but they. The good thing about this team is Now they've experienced it in the preseason where they've been down 16 and they've come back. And then on the flip side, they've blown the lead. And I think that's good for a team to experience both things going into conference play because it's probably going to happen to you during conference play, both things.
Yeah. And one other thing that's amazing, and Coach Z, you can tell the staff I said this, they got more coaches than any NBA team I've ever seen. I think I count 6 coaches, 6 or 7 coaches between Coach Cal. I think it's great, though.
I didn't think you could have a bigger staff than Coach Musselman, but I think we do. We might have Muss still may have the largest staff about Musselman. Coach Musselman would have those 8 graduate assistants.
He had a boiler room in there with those young kids.
Oh man, so many. We only have 4 now, as opposed to 8.
Yeah,
I feel dumb because back when I was at schools, it was a big thing to have 1 GA, and then we got to have 2. We thought it was a huge deal to have 2. They have 8. Man.
Another thing I want to talk about Coach Cal has done, and I really like this, how he comes out and engage with the fans.
Yeah, after the game.
That's just amazing to me. That you got a coach that has been successful as he has, and he comes out and engage with the fans. I really like that.
Yeah.
It makes people feel special.
Yeah, for sure. He's a head basketball coach in Arkansas, and if you can get something signed by him, if people stop and talk to you and be sincere, I think that's really good to do that as the head coach. And nobody's better than anybody else in this world, in my opinion.
You're correct.
And
you need to tell that to the rest of the coaches up there you're meeting everything around the SEC.
People are people.
That's
people
correct.
are people. You just make a better job than I do. Maybe you make more money than I do, but don't mean you're better.
That's correct.
And sometimes coaches at all schools can get caught up, well, I'm the king. I'm better than you. I'm better than anybody. That's not a good attitude to have. Right. And I know Nolan Richardson never had that attitude.
No.
And so I think it's important to stay humble. And Coach Cal has seemed to be that way in the short time he's been at Arkansas.
Hey, you get to see him behind the scenes. And don't take any shots. I don't want you taking any shots at the way Musselman ran things. But how different are things being run now? This seems like a major corporation now with Calipari, and he's kind of the CEO. And Muss was more hands-on with everything.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, it is a lot different, and Coach Muss did a lot of good things. Coach Cal definitely, and you're right, it's more like a big company. It's a big, well-oiled machine. Everyone's got their role. He likes to do it this way, this way, this way. He stays true to that. But it is a lot different the way he does it and the way he runs, whether it's practice or off the court or office time or film or travel. There are quite a bit of differences in the way he does things and the way that Coach Muss did things. So Coach Muss had good success here.
I think the difference, Coach Z, is Coach Cal has been in the South a little bit more, and he understands the Southern pedigree a little bit more. And I think Coach Musselman from California, they're a little bit different when it comes to people skills. And I just think Cal has been in Memphis. He's been at Kentucky. So he's been in the Southeast region, for probably the last 15 or 20 years. And I think he learned how to deal with Southerners.
That's a good point. He had 9 at Memphis, 15 at Kentucky. Kentucky's semi-Southern, but it's 24 years that he's kind of been in a Southern hospitality mentality.
That's correct.
And from Pittsburgh, he played at Clarion University. He spent time at Pitt. He spent some time at KU. He's a Brooklyn New Jersey Nets back then. A little bit of stint in Philadelphia. He's had some NBA experience and college experience, but he's had a lot of East Coast time. But I agree with you, Ernie. These last 24 years, he's basically been in the South. And he's been in the SEC. He's been in the SEC, and I think that's been good for him. We have a coach that when we go to Tennessee to play them January 4th, the last butt whooping that Tennessee took was to John Calipari in Kentucky on the last Saturday of the regular season in March. They had won the conference championship outright, Tennessee. Kentucky went in there and smacked them. And I think that's going to help our coach. We're not going to have to show him where the locker room is. We're not going to
That's correct.
He's going to.
Hey, on the flip side, everyone's going to be up for Coach Cal.
Oh, yes.
because he's done that about everywhere in the SEC. And when he comes in, like when he came to Arkansas, the greatest moment I've had watching Razorback sports or basketball outside of, the Nolan years was watching him take that walk after he got kicked out. I mean, that arena, and he had to walk all the way across the court.
And what's amazing to me, I would be at a lot of those games, and I never could figure out why Coach Calipari would come out and talk to John Tyson before he would go to his bench.
We figured it out.
We figured it out now. Yeah, I know why. Yes. It was amazing.
Hey, I tell you what. I was coaching, and I would see them, and they would hug, and they would talk, and you knew they'd been at Herman's the night before, and he always had this special time with Mr. Tyson. And I know as a Razorback assistant, I always felt like Mr. Tyson wants Kentucky to beat our butt. And
I don't think so.
Well, I never knew the relationship, but he's wearing red now. One thing we got to do, and you tell Coach Cal, is we're gonna get him a red coat. We got to get him some more red.
He's getting further and further away from red. He looked good for the Little Rock game. North Little Rock game.
Yeah, he did. He had that burgundy on. Yes,
yeah.
He did look good. Yeah, he's been nice to me and my family in Pine Bluff. This past week, my grandson got a chance to meet Boogie and take a picture. These guys are really, really nice. I don't know what they are behind the scene, but they have been so nice to me, and that really makes me feel good that. And another thing he's done, Coach Cal has really, invited former players back, and he's saying, "You guys built this. You guys come and be a part of it." And that even if I never go, it makes me feel important again.
Oh, I love that, and that's one of the best things. He's done so many things so very well since he's been here, just off of the court. And big part of that has been with Coach Richardson and trying to bridge that gap with Coach Richardson, because they had a little bit of a battle. They had animosity from playing. And he's built that, and he's been very respectful to Coach. And just what you're saying, Ernie, he's been very respectful to our former players that he didn't coach. They were coached by.
Yeah, that's right.
Son, and Mike Anderson.
Hey, and being quite honest, that didn't happen under Muss. He reached out to some players, but not all the players. It was the ones that could probably help him out.
Yeah, you have to be an NBAer.
Yeah,
or a Coach Z.
Yeah, I think that Coach Cal's really done good, and he's been great. I think to meet anytime I've had a former player at a game or a practice or somewhere around him, and maybe he didn't know him, he'd always stop, and you could say, "Coach Cal, boom, this is Michael Hogue, or this is Ernie Murray, or this is," and sometimes he knows him, sometimes he coached against him, but he's been very gracious. He stopped.
You know what's good though? It's good. In basketball we hear no talk about money. During football season, it's a constant struggle of NIL.
Guys, anything.
And
in basketball, we're not paying any money, so we just eliminate that.
Yeah, you don't hear any. You don't hear any.
Joke. That was a joke.
Yeah.
That was a joke, Z.
Hey, but you don't hear anything about basketball. I mean, obviously they're taking care of their players, and it's a lot due to the fact that we have a coach who kind of transcends the program. I mean, you get these coaches like a Belichick or a Calipari or even a Deion Sanders, you're going to access money that a normal coach wouldn't be able to access.
Correct.
And that alleviates one big worry. C's saying no.
No doubt. He's got, just like his fantasy camp, his basketball camps, his father-son camps, he's got sponsors, whether it's Tyson or Source Care. There's businesses sometimes I haven't even heard of. Like, is that even an Arkansas company? But they are donating a lot of money and giving money to his cause, and that's been good. And he can take all these funds and help student athletes, help his staff, whatever. But you're right. I like how you say that, Sully. He does have an ability to generate a lot of money and to access a whole lot of money.
Well,
our players are getting paid.
Just think about how many games, the big games we've already played just because of who our coach is right now. You think about that. I mean, we've gone to Baylor, we've been to Michigan, we played in the Jimmy Valvano class. We ain't played in the council. We ain't played that in some years. So it's just his name recognition and the players that he's bringing in. it's just amazing. And I really like what's going on, and I'm excited to see what this basketball team is going to do in January and February. We're going to really find out really what type of team we got in the first couple weeks of January.
That's a great point. He could just say he wants to play on Thanksgiving, and someone will find him a game.
Right. He already has one.
I want to play at Madison Square Garden. You know?
Yeah.
Well, we hadn't played in Madison Square Garden since the late 90s with Pat Bradley and Kareem Reed and the NIT. And that team earned their way there. And the last time we were invited to go there like we were this year was when Ernie, with Todd Day, Lee Mayberry, Oliver Miller in the 1990 November preseason NIT. And so no one has invited us to play in Madison Square Garden since 1990.
That's amazing.
Now, again,
that is crazy.
The postseason NIT, Arkansas earned their way there.
Correct.
By winning 3 NIT games and getting to go to New York. But no one has reached out and said, we want y'all to come play in Madison Square Garden in November or December. And that goes from Nolan Richardson in 1990 to John Calipari in 2024, and he's going to go back there again in 2025. So I think that's
amazing.
You're right.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys. In the entire football season, we never pushed our entire Zoom period. We pushed it today. We're down to 3 minutes, 14 seconds. It's a credit to you two. Talking hoops.
Talking Razorback hoops.
Hey,
there's a lot to talk about, Sully.
Yeah, there is. There is. And let's go back. One more topic. I want to talk a little about Boogie Fland. You mentioned a great point, Ernie. We're going to get players that we would have never sniffed before. A guy from the Bronx who
amazing
has come down here, and I look from I watched him at Simmons Bank Arena after the game. And he's going to spend 1 year in college, but how much is that kid enjoying his time? He plays with a joy. I mean, even UCA coach mentioned it, Schulman. He said they play basketball. They don't talk.
They play
They don't taunt. They just play, and that's good to watch. Good to see.
And I hope he don't mind me saying this. If Boogie goes, so goes the Razorback. I said we're going to have Boogie fever. That's what I'm going to say. I love Boogie. I didn't know he was that good of a basketball player. He is amazing, and he's even a better player off the court. And I want kids to watch him play. He's not all behind the back. He's basic, but it looks good. He's smooth. He's a great basketball player.
And he's a 3-level scorer that you don't see. A 3, a mid-range, and he can go to the hoop. You don't see that very often now in college basketball. You got any final,
you really don't.
You got any final words, Z?
Yeah. I mean, he's just so good at attacking, and that's where his game starts. Even in June, when I first saw him, I was like, man, that's like he plays different, but that's a Lee Mayberry, a freshman that's going to come in at point guard and be our best player and be the star of everything. And he's a lot of Lee off the court, too. He's respectful. He's very nice to people, as you both have talked about. He's got a great mentality. He's probably a better defense, and Lee was a very, very good defense player. He
I can tell you that.
Yeah. But I think Boogie's a better defensive player. But it's hard to beat Lee Mayberry. Remember Lee Mayberry's freshman year, he had 100-something assists and like 30 turnovers. So those numbers are hard to beat. But he is a Lee Mayberry type, and maybe will be a lot better NBA player even than what Lee turned out in his 9-year NBA career. This is a guy that's a star. When you have this kind of guard, Sully, you got a chance to win every game. And Adunthero is incredible as well. And then all these other pieces are playing. Jonas, Trevin, Devonamir, all those guys.
Hero, you got players everywhere.
All right. I gotta blow the whistle. We're under a minute. We better call it quits. Hey, Z, thank you. Coming from the car, from Springdale, we appreciate you. You never say no to me. And that goes for the past 10, 15 years. And I truly appreciate that.
Welcome.
And you have a great Christmas,
You're welcome.
my friend.
Always.
All right. And Ernie, the walk-on wonder from Wabaseka, same thing. I call Ernie on the phone. What time, where? Yeah. And thank you much. And this thing's going to cut us off soon. So thank you for tuning in to our first, there'll only be one of these, a first Hog Central podcast. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the Hog Central Podcast. New episodes drop Tuesday on YouTube, or listen on the go. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every major podcast platform.